Does it concern you how easily the claims to American land ownership is, if Native American or an early settler? But validity is questioned if Black American. I'm Addie Banks, and this is my report. Maryland developers are trying to desecrate a Black cemetery again. The Daily Beast, Barrett Holmes Pittner, October 8th, 2022. In Bethesda, Maryland, one of America's most affluent communities, some of its residents live atop and park their cars on a Black American cemetery that has existed for more than a century. For decades, the white residents of the area were largely unaware of the cemetery. Yet, despite its existence being known today, the city government seems to prefer the truth to remain buried so that it can sell the land, including the remains of Black Americans, to developers for more than $50 million. A cemetery that was far more than a cemetery. In 1911, the descendants of formerly enslaved Marylanders built Moses Macedonia African Cemetery, and ever since it had been a vital piece of Bethesda, predominantly Black community along River Road. Quote, the community was a great place to live during this time. We were a big, happy community, everyone loving everybody, end quote. This was said by Harvey Matthews, who grew up on River Road in the 1950s. Matthews was fond of playing hide and seek at Moses Macedonia African Cemetery. It was a playground and not far from the Macedonia Baptist Church, where he is still a member. But the threat of racial violence and terror was never far away. For River Road's Black community, the cemetery had also become a playground because the segregated public parks were off limits. Yet by the late 1950s and early 60s, the Black community's tranquility had been shattered by the growing presence of the Ku Klux Klan again. And in just over a decade, almost all traces of Black community had been erased. The article goes on to talk about the Klan of the 1950s, but this was the third iteration of the Hoods and Rhodes who terrorized Blacks. And some of them held positions in the Montgomery County Police Department and as city officials. Matthews' family moved away from River Road in 1959 to escape the Ku Klux Klan. As more Blacks moved out, unscrupulous developers tricked the remaining Blacks into giving up their land, and Black River Road was replaced with expensive apartments for white Marylanders on top of Moses Macedonia African Cemetery. During construction, all of the grave stones were bulldozed. And then, as the foundation for the apartment complex was being dug, body parts were discovered. Since developers had always known that they were building upon a cemetery, the discovery of deceased Black bodies was more of an inevitable nuisance than a detriment or justification to stop construction. Instead of relocating the bodies or engaging in countless other humane actions, the developers decided to encapsulate the bodies in asphalt and build a parking lot upon them, fighting for their ancestors. Right now, every day, cars are parking on top of those bodies. Stephen Lieberman, a partner in the law firm Rothwell Fig, told the Daily Beast, I think most people would agree that that's a desecration. I wonder what the outrage would be if those were Jewish bodies. Lieberman is representing the descendants of those buried in the Moses Macedonia African Cemetery and other community leaders, including Matthews, in a lawsuit against the Montgomery County Housing Opportunities Commission, HOC, over control of the land. Additionally, his clients have also created a nonprofit called the Bethesda African Cemetery Coalition, BACC, that has been raising awareness of this American atrocity and fighting to preserve the bodies of their ancestors. In August 2021, on behalf of the plaintiffs, Lieberman filed a complaint in the Maryland Circuit Court to compel the HOC to comply with Maryland laws and not sell Westwood Towers to developers. Those Maryland laws require landowners, prior to selling the land of a cemetery or burial ground, must get approval from the court to do so. This approval process normally constitutes hearing the perspectives of the representatives of the deceased, and then the court determines a fair remedy, which can include blocking the sale. In this case, the HOC attempted to ignore the statute and sell the cemetery to the highest bidder, accepting a bid of $51 million from Charger Ventures LLC. Charger Ventures LLC is based in Washington, D.C., founded in 2018 as a best-in-class multifamily investment management platform. On October 25th, 2021, Circuit Court Judge Carla N. Smith upheld the preliminary injunction to stop the sale. But the HOC appealed the decision. And on October 6, 2022, yes, last week, the HOC presented its case before a 3-judge panel at the Maryland Court of Special Appeals for overturning the judge's decision and selling the property. A decision is expected to be announced in the coming months. For us, justice is that the land is transferred back to the descendant community and that the land would be used to build a museum and sacred space. This said by Marcia Coleman Adebayo, the president of the Bethesda African Cemetery Coalition, who told this to the Daily Beast. The museum would be used for teaching future generations about both the genocide and erasure of the community and its culture, and the theft of land on River Road, and also the culture, history, accomplishments, and significance of the River Road community. In her 2000 2021 decision, Judge Smith stated that the court cannot ignore the plaintiffs, African Americans, are seeking to preserve the memory of their relatives and those with whom they share a cultural affiliation. Nor can the court ignore that as early as the 1930s, when construction began in the River Road community, the deceased have been forgotten, forsaken, and their final resting places destroyed or, at a minimum, desecrated. Following Judge Smith's decision, Charger Ventures LLC canceled its plans to purchase Westwood Towers because the deal could not be completed at the agreed upon time. However, they told the Bethesda Beat in November 2021 that Charger continues to express a strong interest in resuming negotiations to purchase the property. According to Lieberman, the HOC is making an incredibly cruel argument in this case because they are claiming that due to the lack of gravestones or other documentation, the descendants cannot prove that their ancestors are buried there. Yet, even if descendants could prove that their ancestors are in the cemetery, the HOC is arguing that the descendants cannot prove that they are buried on the parcel of land that became the parking lot for Westwood Towers. And instead, their remains could reside on the adjacent properties that include a Starbucks, a giant food grocery store, a shopping mall, and a Whole Foods. But didn't I read that the bones were discovered when they started building the apartment and parking lot? In essence, the HOC is attempting to use the desecration of Black bodies and graves from the past as a justification for desecrating them in the present. River Road continues to tell the story of normalized displacement, terror, desecration, and erasure that often befalls American Black community in the name of white wealth. These are the words of the writer. From chattel slavery to Jim Crow and into the present, the struggle to preserve Black life and culture when confronted by white wealth and business development continue to plague American society. River Road's Black community tells a story of this struggle and the terror inflicted upon Black Americans. Yet, still today, some Marylanders would prefer to erase this history and keep business going as usual, while Black families are re-traumatized. Quote, my mom, my dad, my grandparents, and the ones who have gone on to glory before me, they can't stand up there. They fought their fight back then. I'm still here. I'm still alive. I have my health and strength, says Matthews. I will fight like hell as long as I have breath in my body until this situation is resolved. Matthews, a Black American citizen. You know, it would be so convenient to pass over the history of Blacks in America who were brought here, not immigrants. ADOS, American descendants of slaves. We are a distinct group, only known in America, and therefore natives. Some commenters were oh so tired of again hearing about our woes. Can we just start with the pilgrims, skip slavery, and celebrate immigrants come to build the land of opportunity? Okay, Columbus Day, Indigenous Natives Day to vent. Like them, ADOS ancestors are buried here in our homeland. Is it too much to ask that you respect us as proud citizens of America? Yes, you came to get rich, and yes, you came and to take care of your own, but you care nothing about the burial grounds and the atrocities of my people. But maybe, just maybe, America is seeing increased hate crimes because citizenship and loyalty to this country has been taken for granted, ushering a whole new level of resentment for dismissals of what is due. This, while celebrating those coming to America for a better life, to live the American dream, even if it is established by making a killing on top of our ancestors' graves. That's prime land.